So if you turn to page 22 in the sample book. You who emanate from the heart of the Saviour, the 100 David's joyful realm, on the peak of a cloud, resembling clumps of extremely fresh white curd, the King of Dharma, omniscient Osandraka, with your sons. I request you to come to this place. In the sky before me, on a lion-thrown lotus and moon disk, the perfect pure Lama smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for mind's devotion, I beg you to abide for 100 eons to increase the teachings. Your holy mind understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your eloquent speech is the ear ornament of the fortunate ones. Your holy body is glowing and glorious with fame. To you, who is meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Beautiful drinking water, various arranged flowers, fragrant incense, light-scented waters, and so forth. Actually performed and literally transformed oceans of clouds of offerings, I offer to you this supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtues of body, speech, and mind, and especially actions opposite to the three vows that I have created from beginningless time, from the bottom of my heart, I regret and fervently protest them all individually. In this time of the 5 degenerations, you strove for much listings and realizations, and made meaningful the perfect human rebirth. By renouncing the worldly concerns in the Saviour's extensive deeds, I rejoice sincerely from the depths of my heart. So it pause here to rejoice extensively, as we heard yesterday, Lama Tsongkhapa's deeds and qualities, and that we have the great fortune through Geshe Tsultrim to connect with the teachings of Christ. These holy, perfect, pure gurus from billowed clouds of compassion and wisdom in the sky of the Dharmakaya make rainfalls of profound and extensive teachings of whatever is suitable for the ears of sentient beings who are the objects to be subdued. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lord Sandraka to shine forever. Saji Due to the merits of having offered this mandala to Guru Lama Tsongkhapa and 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings, without a delay of even 1 second, be able to meet the pure wisdom teachings of the victorious Lord Lama Tsongkhapa, who is endowed with pure morality and a brave attitude, who does extensive deeds for all sentient beings, and who accomplished the elements of 2 stages, the essence of which is transcendental wisdom of non-dual bliss and brightness. Three hollow white beams are emitted from the hearts of Lama Tsongkhapa and sons. The beams mix into one as they enter your own realm. Milk-coloured white nectar flows into you through the white beam tube and washes away all stains, sickness, spirit harms, defilements, and negative karma. Your own body becomes calm and clear like crystal. So we go to the bottom of the page for the Miksema 3 times. Ming me say way techen chen me si dream me ken pe wa po shan pe say sa way ga ga che ke pe su jin su ga ba lo san ta pe sha la su Sejin Jerezi, Jimmy Kimme, Bojan Beyan, Shuze Samita, Gachi Kippe, Sujin Suga, Lozon Trabe Shawa Suande, Jimmy Kimme, Bojan Beyan, Shuze Samita, Gachi Kippe, Sujin Suga, Lozon Trabe Shawa Suande. Sangye Chedan Sojin Chonamba Shanchu Partu Dami Kapsuche Dagi Chushi Yevan Zada Golan Beshe Sangye Rupara Shi Sangye Chedan Sojin Chonamba Shanchu Partu Dami Kapsuche Dagi Chushi Yevan Zada Golan Beshe Sangye Rupara Shi Sangye Chedan Sojin Chonamba Shanchu Partu Dami Kapsuche Dagi Chushi Yevan Zada Golan Beshe Sangye Rupara Shi Kangi tuzi zone tawa tamche pambi shere tambi chun tenche padam dela chanze lo. We begin by acknowledging the Wajak Noongar people, traditional custodians of the land on which we live today, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people everywhere.
Namu lai ke nalu dana jengi chubun dana mi ke nalu gawa kunji chanam chizam kamche ke dada ki chute. Good morning, everyone. Welcome here. Marco. Shobo delege.
Çok deli gene.
Anzu mixima dengo rastra. Lama tsungaba de soata. Ani lama tsungaba de song to solo. And this is on kita samota nyamne chewana. Yasa jata manga lama tsungaba na shin chaya gyugen chiyor asra. The kitchen was this.
When reciting Miksema as one does now really has great benefits. It's important to do. One does so in the amongst or as part of making supplications or requests to Lama Tsongkhapa, and also reflecting on the meaning of the words. So this is important to do. That's all.
Lama Tsongkhapa Gyawarik Sungumbu Kumulaya Sanki Yorwas. Lama Tsongkhapa Gyawarik Sungumbu Kumulaya Sanki Jukin Tumumaibati Kareres Lawandi. Lama Tsongkhapa
Gyawarik Sungumpo Kongsure
Gyawarik Sungumbu Cherisi Jambian Chama.
I did some det sick jag inte give me do.
And this sum Gungulaya Sanki Yores. Ra. Tisum Gungulaya, that he combang on the chairs, Yawarik Sungumbu, good combang on the chairs. Then good combang Tobia with Jukin, my body, and the Jawala Santaba, Lobalamgi Nakab Santa, Lomni chasing Bikalaya, Korang Zavilama Tsudi, and a Jiduranda was on the lodge. The Jawala Santa with that Zavilama Tsuch Chagores. And it Jizan Randavadi, Yawarixum Gumbo Ngolaya, and it merchant, Yawarixum Gumbo Kita Mubachin, and it 가두이나 라미넨지 짱겨러스 장기 짜요 라마디 자와리 송구무 ngolaya ane 소타니 라미넨지 짱발 깨니 야올로 산타바디 야와리 송구무 ngolaya 상기여레스
When we recite Mixema, we're reciting it to the to Vajrapani, Manjushri, and Chenrezig. So these three remarkable beings come together as what is it called? The three. There's a specific word, but it'll come to me. I don't remember the English. But these are whom Lama Tsongkhapa turns to as for inspiration, for guidance, and as a guru. And in fact, his a teacher, one of his primary teachers in human form, Jetsun Rendawa, he also relied on Manjushri, Vajrapani, and Chenrezig. So taking them as our example, we should follow the example by reciting the Mixema with deep faith in these three aspects of the enlightened mind. The three aspects of the enlightened mind referring to Manjushri, Vajrapani, and Chenrezig. That's okay.
Very sensitive person. This is the Lord lamsake tadi. What did it dinza? That Jawala Santa Badi, Jawar Sumgumbi Yimba Tayadi, Gomiadi, and it makes him a Tony. Geshe Tsultrim. Makes him a Tony. And it Jawala Santa Badi, Jawar Sumgumbu Yimbadi, makes him a Tony. That's Sibush Gomchawiras. Ra. Makes a degenerate 6 laundi. Jawala Santa Badi, 2 Yugi, 7 Yinji Chembojora. Jawala Santa Badi, 2 Yugi, 7 Yinji Chembojora. Chon Dena, Jawala Santa Badi, Jerry's Mucha Tugores. Kungu Gigi, any Tombani Tobi Sheriff, Kanji, any Chani, Jitan Jambi and Muimbati, drew to Gures. Kungu Nibal Deni, any Chana Doji, Muimbati, drew to Gures. In the Disum Sobala Deni, Jawala Santa Badi, Jawarisum Gumbi Kuimbati, Gomni, and it makes them a down by now.
Yeah, Dante Karen Champayanki Kola Chik Sung Song, Di Gomasong, Chenesi Dang Changa Doje Gosam, Champayanki Kola Chik Sung Song.
Kungi Juju Tombani Tobi, Sheriff Chani, Kungi Sheriff Chani, Konjambi and Way, but that's what it is.
When we're reciting Mixema, we should understand that Lama Tsongkhapa is in essence all three of these aspects of the enlightened mind, aspects of the Buddha, Manjushri, Vajrapani, and Chenrezig. So in other words, see them as indifferential, indistinguishable in terms of their very essence. So thereby, reciting Mixema, requesting blessings and inspiration, one receives the qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa, for example, in relation to compassion, that through Lama Tsongkhapa is in essence no different from Chenrezig, the expression of the enlightened mind of compassion, thereby relying on Lama Tsongkhapa, one receives the blessings and the guidance and inspiration of Chenrezig. And so too with Manjushri, the exalted wisdom that understands reality. So here when one makes applications to Lama Tsongkhapa, reciting Mixema, one receives the blessings through Lama Tsongkhapa of the enlightened mind in the aspect of Manjushri that helps to bring about our own realization of emptiness. And likewise through Vajrapani, the expression of all the power and power or capacity capacity or ability of the Buddhas, the capacity to actually fulfill the aspiration of compassion and lead all beings to enlightenment. That's all.
Tirda gyawlasan chawala ya sem tachik te tuwa na. Tadila laji goya tsawa ni niyo samaris. Manzo mitsi na nga so tachik gyawlasan chawi kusung tusung yun den sambi tuwa ani sem te tuwa na. Tadila laji goya samaris tarwa. Nga tukmadu susu nipata susu namchola teni. Ani susu kiawa ngama namsuta. Ani tsosa drobchongla sobata mamuchila da tugra wasra.
There's really nothing greater than sitting single-pointedly with one's mind on the qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa, of Losang Drakpa, and in effect, striving to cultivate one's own mind thereby, so that it becomes, in terms of quality, no different from that of Lama Tsongkhapa. So we've all had the opportunity to hear and reflect, and eventually, as a goal, one will strive to become just like the exalted being Lama Tsongkhapa. That's all.
Tirda penangana doita that indiresra 1995 or 96 Tudi ngala Jeromujing songbom chanza mes Lingazu pe gyogres pesha yomares ra Kab tudi ngi chokbo jila Jeromujing songbom ke tep chanza chidwa An chokbo du pel lo da An korang ngala An songbom tep digi ngala zong golasra korang pel drudi kol pesha gogra Ani tep digi ke tu mar tep de ngala zong gos Ani tep dela kab tudi gyagum tongdanga 5,000 rupees tongdanga Yagum tongdanga sin just $100 Australia kab tudi ngal di mes mero imba ngi mission pune yar chini pune yar ngi songbum luyimba teni sone ngal penjo kanga chi themasta teni sone ro nga rosong tanya da chi yoro danga ko bezun che go mundu kali ja go mundu tanda badu lessons nga kibitan
Then it did tamadeng kangel mepa netan deng gomasong ngul yarie kangel yomare yamana sungbom ragne kangel yomare.
songbum rawa ni chen ngala penjo kanga thema so tanda badu nga penjo so yo mara yeah.
Awesome. In my own case, in the year it was about 95, 90 or 96. At that stage, I still did not have the collected works of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, quite frankly, because I was a little poor. I couldn't afford to buy it. So a friend of mine in the monastery, he was returning to Tibet. So he couldn't carry these books with him, but he needed money to help him on his journey. So he offered to sell the collected works of Lama Tsongkhapa to me. And for 5,000 rupees, which today's exchange rate's about $100 or just less. So I didn't even have that back then. But I was able to borrow it from others. And in this way, I was able to purchase the collected works of Lama Tsongkhapa. And from then until now, financially, I've had no problems. So even then, I was so impoverished that $100 was well beyond my means. From the time of gaining the collected works of Lama Tsongkhapa, I have had no financial problems. That's okay.
Meaning how Australia the Tambushana, not Tambu 2014. Not later. Not Jala K Yakshu the Songbom Dins. Mariam the Kimba.
When I came, when I came in to Australia 10 years ago in 2014, the most precious item that I had with me was these collected works from Lama Tsongkhapa. 그래서
얘네가 로 딱바 다와 딱바는 가 랑탕바를 dro고 거랬어. 랑탕바. 아니 뭐 진가 랑탕바를 줘. 콘주 칼라티가 칼라티로. 나 칼라사데디게 단다 미지 로야스 레데기로지. 배시 로든주 신사레고. 미지 그 파조도 람 데디게더라. ngalso tas ko lam de de do ai ga ko tsushos lai ba tsushos ko tsulesora ko ngal chara nyemba chal chik je yosa ang karres lai ta ga do so ko moda na yelas an ta ga do ba chulo ko moda jablo do lusha je avse so kuch jerumochi en yasorumochi kerumochi ko 인지 쪽 계신 하거라.
좁게 inch there.
이래 전부요. 늘 충분해. 인디지도라. 근데 그가 제거서. 그가라 디 오스트레일리아 레니 로숨주 성을 봤었어. 로숨주 성나. 니모코 야가 다람 살드로니 야워무지 용진 체와 링룸부치 꼭 공화여라. 링룸부치게 송주표 잠네나레사. 아니 이때 아침부 쇼를 키라 냐스랭바. 그거가 갈 니르 땅사이사. 니르 땅사이라스라. 야, 도지체스 니야 덴데시. 니야 덴데시. 데스 거야위 다보자무. 아니 셰레드다 참을 쪼고 차서로. 참 참을 구zul라 쇼스 세추 셰레드서 세추. 단단히 샤나오야. 땡조 디지아스고 리루무치 고 고마게 손주다 라운네 나지 고사친부디. 나 nomodela raya megjiro 나도 종송스 땡알 상관가 원이 대바 담식이 토니 젠라브라스 나 딘디 가오 고몬디 베기우도스라 쇼기 딱나 제거다 쇼기 딱 제거래 아니 만체지 다 참소용 이 만체지 쇼기 자소라차 꿈배하고 자주서디 아니 작갑직 야 퓨야 제르무치네 작갑직 퓨 이는 알아 자도 간는데 베기우도스라
Die Pulken, die Pola de Australia me there, huh? Australia me.
제
There. Dennis Alpagosa, Samagosa. Every week I go to the center in Brisbane, Langri Tampa. And so once a few years ago, because I'm also always offered lunch before giving a teaching. Then I was having lunch, and an Australian gentleman, maybe in his 70s, he saw me eating, and he looked at me askance. So I called him over, and he said he wanted to show me something outside. So I went with him, and he was parked outside where we were eating, and on the back seat of his car, he had a large statue of Lama Tsongkhapa and his two principal students of Kerupche and Gyaltsabche. And I was amazed to suddenly be shown this in such circumstances in Brisbane. And the statue is quite large. It's 18 inches, about 45 centimeters. So it's quite a sizable statue. And this gentleman said to me, about 35 years ago, at that time, so about 35 years ago, he was in Dharamsala, and the Ling Rinpoche, the senior tutor to His Holiness, had consecrated the statue for him, and he had brought it back to Australia. And now he would like to give it to Geshe, give it to myself. And I was shocked, and I said, but why do you want to give this away? And he said, no, it's now time to give it up. And so I received this very precious offering, and I took it home. I really quite joyous at this opportunity. And it needed to be cleaned. It needed to be looked after. It wasn't in the best of conditions, but I cleaned it and touched it up, and felt so joyous at my great good fortune to be offered in such bizarre circumstances, to be offered this very precious statue, and that it had been consecrated by Ling Rinpoche himself. This, wow, it really touched me. And in fact, every morning, when I get up, I make some tea, and I offer a cup of tea to Lama Tsongkhapa by means of this statue every single morning. So therefore, every day when I interact with it in this way, it brings me great joy. I recall the story, recall the gentleman who offered it to me, and offering tea like this in these circumstances, it just starts my day in an excellent way. Then I sit down and I start to engage my daily practice. So this is how I start every day. Let's look at
It's true. You know, yeah. Ini pigila ya lo takwa January la manzu lambram course chogoles. Lambram course ra. Ani logic la nganzu lambram sarni ta ningu kalasa gro. Ningu kalasa di dudi peshi lo shivchu smero dindi posajido. Posadi 이 예실은 아케라는 지 표현이었어. 대비적 표현이었어. 대비적. 라스슬레. 안 코란 로스는 출레서를 대비친구지. 대비친구지도. 대비싸워서냐. 대비 조라는 편자는 익쇼 좀 시작했던도. 근데 대비친구지더라. 그래서 끼고지는 끼고 숨 쉬서서. 대비친구. 지고서다. 아니 그 여기 nga tepdi ngin lo kashi drosons tepdi kakyun chemes ka chenyong mundu giksho di sabasa jen tom shadra tepdi yabu yubi rewa yesa kunga angi tepdi ken shala yong ka chemba ka chemes tibadi jilada kuchiksi
Manchar Gosam Jayadiya, Lo rede mi di kerang la ningun kala sadu dollar shipchu tregi yore. Di selpo gomasong.
are
Zenit is cancer. Lamun kostape jela ningun kala sadu.
ningu kala sadi midi ngala tep buk
Di selpo gosong.
timado jemban pesha
Ale,
kursi
dollar shipchu dan drabo ki kolasung masonge.
cheme
De gang la di dalo yena.
mari lo
Lo
peshe
ka shingola. Lo ka shingola. Tuche. Every Chinese Institute in January, we have a Lamrim course. And so this we have every year. And after the one about 6 or 7 years ago, a young man came up to me and he offered me a very large, heavy book. So this looked brand new because it was still wrapped in plastic. And I'd say, by saying large and heavy, it really was. It probably weighed about 3 kilograms. And he said, I bought this some years ago. I've never looked at it. I'd like to offer it to you. I hope it's something that you find useful. Lasso.
Teni tebdi kaji chedi jeromo chegi dan namdar yoro. Namdar tandar di konzum de bis songa jachu.
Rimo Nangsen.
Rumonaje. Ye nanglo la ya jeromo chi saja ka pe yeme sonju karna yeme pama kar yeme tsam. Igi tiyoro. Ye tsam 아니 마 세우스 인지당 배익얘기 도는선 뎁스 어디래셨어?
And what this large, heavy book was a biography of Lama Tsongkhapa. The same biography that is pictured in That's pictured on these in these drawings on your wall, these tankas on the wall. So Geshe pointed to those to his left. So those pictures present or depict Lama Tsongkhapa's life story. And in this biography, it represents each of these places where he went, what he taught, and to whom. And the text, of course, was in Tibetan, but it included a translation in English. Lasso.
nga karsamusa nga chindawi insam gores ra ta chigde deba chinza chindawi insam gores tanga nani ta disdade ta dindi nga mangbu share yes chida nga mangbu share yes ra ine tanga tuzu yo mares ne kyan su ngone channe ge mixmasa jerum chile so ta jerum chile son to so ka tu 아니 장 냠는 체다 야채 야담다 딜라지 고 말했어 너 무슨 나와라요 딜라지 싸우니 고 말했어 되게 야채 야담 사이 야투스러
That I have received such remarkable that there have been such remarkable events in my life, such as these two I've mentioned. For me, really comes down to my single-pointed confidence or trust or faith in Lama Tsongkhapa that I have cultivated. And I could give many more illustrations of these kind of really remarkable events that have occurred to me. But there's not time for that now. So I just share these two. And I do so as to encourage you to develop within yourself deep and abiding trust in Lama Tsongkhapa. And with that, to recite Miksema and to receive teachings on and to read and to study his texts and reflect on the meaning therein. And I say this again to encourage you because of my own lived experience of the great benefit that this does undoubtedly bring. That's all.
제드니 라마충가비 송나나야 단 동안이가 요레스 라 단도전에 빼는다 람름당 데니 직조 다 람름제 데니 아니 동반이 걸 페나 오모 콤바라셀라 소바 다 항상 요레스라 그냥 지 메든 직 장다 가주스 아니 때바 있네요 님마 딱바 때바 있네요 님마 딱바 베티 아니 지 사번 통해 이게 얌샘부 쇼요레스 아니 데니 지 람람다 오미 쇼라야 고야고 지차니 데니 지가 그 쇼도서 지 따투와이나 타도는 다 제롬 지 나름 체무세다 링아사빈세 리오레스 드즈나지 시 드즈 고와지라와이나 당원이 산지 생이디 여바다 산지 원에 산지 칸더스 두고 위험에 탑 칸더질 때는 산지 두고 위험에 딱 원에 단이 딱 세부 쇼지 통토야지 여사라 상성으로 이어레스 야샤자도 이어다스라 인지기다 양sem부 송 원에 셴바 요마다스 니 삼는 셴바 요마다스라
Lama Tsongkhapa's many volumes of texts. He composed on both the sutra and tantra. And in the sutra texts that he composed, they are primarily of texts on the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, the Lamrim, as well as incredible texts on how to realize emptiness, on the correct presentation of reality. So I'd encourage you to read these texts. They have been translated, and read them. And the way to read them is to read daily, to read and reread and reread. And by doing so, especially with an attitude that remains open and inquiring, an attitude that takes the same page, the same passage as something new and fresh every time you read it, tremendous benefit will come to you. And also, if you can read the translations of the Tantric grounds and paths, for this too, from this too, will be great benefits. When you engage with the text from Lama Tsongkhapa, know that you are receiving, by means of Lama Tsongkhapa's composition, the complete and unmistaken teachings of the Buddha in a way that is not at all adulterated or changed with no omission or addition. Have complete confidence that this is the complete presentation of the Buddha's teachings. And really, from doing so, there'll be tremendous benefits that you will each receive. And I can really say with confidence, there are no texts that are comparable to these that Lama Tsongkhapa has composed. That's all.
Dinza, Gansu, Lama Sobramuchi, Cheso Pidi, and Lama Tsongabagata, Jinju, Tomatsogi, the Chechini Chesagi, Deniji, Chagioros, Chagioros,
Kari Chagiyat?
Lama Tsongabag, Jinju. Jinju so Chechini Chesak, Lomi Chesagi, Deniji Chagioros, Any Manzo Dinana Jinju Sogi, Lama Tsongabagi, Goson Tusungi Yonde, Gomiata, Pardon de Songi Yonde, Son Pod Chogi Tolaya, Lomieta, Sushi Chegoadi, Manzu Lengeros, Manzun Games, Manzun Games was. And it Beja Tingin so in by Naya, Lama Tsongabag, Goson Tusungi Yondi, Kadu Yina, Tomatsolaya, Modrichi Goya, Chensuelangoya di, Beja Tingin so in Games was. Gets on an Anzuchi and Chuzo Kari, the Mahmoud Sungordina, Sonya di Nyon Tragados. Lama Tsongabag, Goson Tusungi Yondi, Joya di Anzu Nyon Tragados. Digmudos ra. Kazu Tuptu Jiki. Any share to buy na, and seminal like Pasha Shagirasro, Gavaligirasro. Na Naniro, the Nani Lama Sobormuchi Gombo Mazoko, Chinda Sumbigi, Tengolanga, Dharamsala, Lama Sobormujin Jeres. Lama Sobormuji Kab to the Naran Gelea, Kamu Carson Slady, Gandel Hajamag, Tangash Shango dos. Well, this one songs. Gandel Hajamag Tanga. Yeah, Tanga di Gandel Hajamag Tanga di Udela. Gande Yigachu, the Jutun Chamogombo Shusag, Poran the Ores. Gande, Tipe, Tagigo go dos. Well, this one songs. Mal Shansho Somas, the Tigodos, the songs.
Bine kerang tanka de, Söger res, Lama Zopa kerang la sumsum.
So good those songs.
There. We are our students within the Dharma centers of Lama Zopa, and Lama Zopa is a student of Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Zopa also has unwavering respect for Lama Tsongkhapa and all his incredible qualities. So it's for us as within this environment to ensure that we come to understand the incredible qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa's physical behavior, his speech, and his mental qualities. This is our own responsibility. And as part of this is to study his texts, to have them taught regularly to us. And when they are taught as well, to request the person teaching to talk about the qualities of the author of the text, so that we, through coming to recognize how remarkable the author of these texts is, that we'll have ever deeper and more abiding faith in the qualities of the author, and thereby open ourselves up to the qualities that do abide in his teachings. And if I speak very honestly, I'd say in general in our centers, students engage too seldom with the teachings from Lama Tsongkhapa. Whereas that should be the primary activity, the primary teachings that we engage in. But I think students don't engage regularly enough or enough at all with the teachings from Lama Tsongkhapa. Rather, by hearing and truly understanding the incredible qualities of this teacher, and thereby engaging with his teachings, merely hearing them or hearing that they are available, hearing the teachings, definitely joy will arise in one's mind. And just to recount a story, when I last met Zopa Rinpoche in India last year, I think it was Longuma Zopa Rinpoche just there. The Dharamsala Sung Pimp.
yeah.
Yeah, when I met Lama Zopa in March last year in Dharamsala, he encouraged me to have a painting of Ganden Lagema, or Tanka of Ganden Lagema created, and a very large one, and on the top of it, there we go, like that, and and on the top of it, to have very clearly Maitreya's Pure Land of Ganden depicted as well. Lasso. So it's, as you can see, it is being
It is soon
composed.
I
Yeah,
make
it's
it,
being
yeah, yeah.
painted.
John, you looking here? 여기 아니 nga셔였으라 사도였다 진짜 개발라 간데를 간데 추가 페비카들라 아니 제르실라 디탕간 조그레스
Oh, con
아니
mappe
간데
pong la cara kede.
아니 간데 추 라면 난게로 왔으라
Ja,
베 엠디야고 아 롱갑주린라야 제롬치 템바디 오스트레일리아 탄 롱갑주 칭요레스 롱갑주 롱갑주린라야 간데 추바 수직 페묘요 마레스 텐장한주 우주견 간데 추발이야 소탄 셈딘 삼바 남다케 제롬치 템발레 치 페마삼 간데 추발이 쉬고인자 그카시 하고요 마레스 그래서 간데 추바 쉬고요 윤세 하고요 마레스 내가 주 셈디 까부 까르장 산기기 땜바 장광함이 땜바 코나 쌈니 간데 추바 덴데 쉬고요 마도 젬바 가야 마레스 젬바 미치요 마레스 간데 추바 인스 헤비인스 소니 페시 갸쳇 갸치 고주고 간데 추바 페용 그랬다라 아까 드디다 간데 라자마가 당가들 간데 추바 람는 난 그랬어 지진이 캐나서 온라인 제토 그랬으라
Dini kenan chinda gupa gepa sung pepe nge komason?
예바
Gepa.
예바
And in August this year, it's almost certain that the Ganden Tripa will be coming to Australia. Now, this is something that I think is of great importance and an incredibly wonderful opportunity. So the Ganden Tripa, or the throne holder of Ganden, is the representative of Lama Tsongkhapa. And in the 50 years that the FPMT has been present in Australia, the Ganden Tripa has never been here. So no Ganden Tripa has ever been to Australia. So I'm really excited that this year he is going to come. And it's almost certain that he will be coming, and he'll come in August. So this really, I think, is so important, because he is the representative of Lama Tsongkhapa in our world, and he'll be coming to Australia. And just before he comes, this tanka will be completed and will be delivered, and then when Trivim Pashe or Ganden Tripa comes, he will be able to bless it. And this is also, I think, of great importance. And the sole motivation of inviting Ganden Tripa to Australia is to further establish the complete and unmistaken teachings of the Buddha, and as presented by Lama Tsongkhapa in our country. Lasso.
그러다 이디자 제르무치기 체도 가르르 땅 고치는 르땅 투그레스 먼저 제르무치기 체도라 소수 메셀르 땅 고치는 르땅 투그레스 야차 야담바 약슈디 차고라서 먼저 아니 깨워 참에 벌레 열었어 세 참에 벌다 돌이 열었어 아 조열었어 이내야 제르무지기 땜박이 쳐도 먼저 세직 르당 투유이 말했어 다 메세 디나 제르무지기 땜바 제레 제르무지기 땜바 제열에 제르무지기 땜바야 대바열에 가와열에 다 디체도 소소 르당 투바노 다 약슈데로스로
Then netan di yu karire lötang hakuchung. Yine di kare lötang kare nga to mitse di
미세디 제르무지기
lötang.
땜바가 내가 가르치고 싶은 제 바이나 르당 말이다 다 제르무지 베나 콘다지기 쳐도 소소라 요 배서 삼아 땅고 좀 땅 투바는 다 르당 말아 다 딩나로 고살 다디 콘다디 유쇼 탕가디 유쇼 송범디 유쇼 딜데 배샤 요나 약살 삼데와나 르당 투요 말했어 아
Benikosan. Yeah, to return to the topic that we're covering this weekend, to make the point that we've spoken about the need to abandon clinging to this mere life. And the mere fact that you are where you are right now should give you confidence that you can do this, that you can let go of your clinging to this mere life. Because this is, you have come now to meet the incredible, or now in this life, you've come to meet the incredible teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa, and that you have some degree of trust or faith in these teachings. So by letting go of everything else, seeing everything else in a secondary light, and having these incredible teachings, the Dharma itself, as one's primary focus, this will enable rapid spiritual development. And this is something that everyone can do, because so many lifetimes have passed where one has not had an opportunity like one has now. So just in the same way that the great masters of the past have let go of what's not important so as to focus on what is, you now have that, not only the opportunity, but the ability to do so. Lasso.
일단 디즈 당간주 간지 당간주 단데 가르시고 그랬을라온디 셰조디 셴바시를 들어왔어 셴바시를 다 셴바시를 제거를 쓸람니 셴바시를 제 둬야지 각보러 왔어 셴바시를 제거요나 제르무지기 송샤기 딜로좀 마지 타메레 라 셴바시를 디 제르무지기 송는 숫다바이나 아니 람기조 남선세 년종 장스미 양답에 따와서 숨도 하스라 디나라 만두비 아니 셴바시르기 냠내지 싸워니 요마레스 아 디나라 만두비 셴바시르기 지 믹세지 셴바시르 레하고 지다 셴바시르 아니 케바도 파와지 요르사마나 싸워니는 노르바레스 요마레스 다 람기조 남선디 년종 장스미 양답에 따와서 줄을 깨발라 기루 계단데 기비 탑신지 말로 땡인지기 라마지기 제수 슈지니 냠린 제거마도 탑신바 요 말았으라
When you read this verse, parting from the four clingings, certainly one will recognize how difficult it would be to actually part from all four of those clingings. But have confidence, it is not beyond any of you. You have met these complete and unmistaken teachings of the Buddha Dharma as presented by Lama Tsongkhapa. And by studying these and reflecting on the way that you are guided to, you will part from each of these four clingings. And why do I encourage you to approach these topics, these four clingings that need to be abandoned, approach them by means of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings, is because there is no one who presents more clearly how to abandon these. So, for example, you know the practice or the text by Lama Tsongkhapa, the very short text, the foundation, the three principal aspects of the path. That is what is mentioned here in the four close placements. Three principal aspects are definite emergence, or more commonly translated as renunciation. And secondly, bodhicitta. And thirdly, the correct view, or the cultivation of the wisdom realizing emptiness. These three principal aspects are what we need to cultivate within us so as to abandon all clinging. And there's no one who presents the meaning of definite emergence or renunciation and how to cultivate it, as well as Lama Tsongkhapa. Likewise, with the presentation of what is bodhicitta and how to cultivate it, or what is the correct view and how to cultivate it, no one presents it as clearly as Lama Tsongkhapa. Thereby, if one wants to achieve what is presented in this verse, the very best method is to approach through the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa. That's okay.
완전히 되다. 그럼 인자 단지 사진 공간이 보기 송나가야 감숨라 셴나 아니 민종민세 감숨라 셴나 민종민슬라니 민종그 삼바디 송겨라서 다 감숨라 셴나 민종민나 감숨라 셴비기 셴바디 다 도고레스 단다디라다 감숨라 셴비기 셴바디 감숨세디 가르스나다 콜위디비 취직 차고레스 감숨라야 먼저 감숨라야 깨월려나야 감숨라야 깨월려온디 깨월렌식이 줄라야 아니 레니니 차고라서 레니니기 온기 가와 깨월렘 바이나야 코월레 깨월렘 바레스 다간지 레니니기 온기 깨신젤라 아니 코빈넬레 끼겨레스 됐다 코빈넬레 끼면서 코월레 잔득이 로텔라야 닌종기 삼바 세거라스 코와 겨다 제발레 아니 잔득이 삼바텔라야 닌종기 삼바 세거레스 닌종기 삼바
Den tilab tuna yang di inji yigyu ki kola tislab gode. Kasing ngatsig loka bitchetang here. Looking at the second line, if you cling to the three realms, that is not renunciation. So just now to say as the translator, I don't use this word English word renunciation because the connotation from our society is quite different from what is meant by the Tibetan word, which is literally definite emergence. So that's the word I use, because we use renunciation often as when we're renouncing something that we like. And that is not the idea at all. So the way it's used in society is not quite right. So I rather use the literal definite emergence. So when you hear definite emergence, refer to what you've heard before on renunciation. Now to what Geshe said. So to looking at this line, if you cling to the three realms, that is not renunciation. So the three realms refers to the three realms of samsara or cyclic existence. So what one is wanting to abandon here is the clinging to cyclic existence. This consciousness that clings to cyclic existence is what one wants to abandon. This is the meaning of the second line. So what causes us to cling to cyclic existence is our contaminated karma and afflictions. This is what causes our repeated uncontrolled rebirth in cyclic existence. So what causes us to be reborn again and again without any control are these two causes, contaminated karma and our afflictions. They are what propel our uncontrolled rebirth within samsara. Recognizing this never-ending process of circling in cyclic existence, and recognizing that these realms are the realms of suffering, one develops a determination to emerge from the suffering realms of samsara. This is the mind of definite emergence, where one becomes definite or determined to emerge from the sufferings of samsara, or in fact, the suffering realms of samsara. In other words, samsara in its entirety. This is the meaning of definite emergence, where one is definite about emerging. I will emerge from the suffering realms of samsara. That's all.
Teda ngenjung lo je gosadi lenyung gi ongi kewa telaya. Lenyung gangi kewa, lenyung gangi chiwa. Telaya ngenjung ke go gore. Ngenjung ke sadero manjung go na ya ta chi ani nekap chi benjo thandik mandu yon ya ta chi ora tsu dungar di ani dunga chimbu tsigi yo mares. Sanji chanso tsu dunga chimbu tsigi yo mares. Ti para ki dunga do jire do. Ngoni ki dunga jora. Kewa la rama meba te dang. Chiwa la rama meba. Tian le da nimu wangi wangi ke goya tang. Le da nimu wangi ni nganzo la ome chini. Chiwa jora. Te di dunga res. Nganzo di chuni tsorgo yo marata. Sosu kewa la rama mebe toni ke yo batang. Cheya dia rama mebe toni che go yo. Di tsorwa di nganzo la ta shira yo marawas. Te di da chandu ki samba di nganzo ke tu yo marata. Tingi paragi ke tsavi che la mashik paragi mitse di paragi chik. Nedan te korang la ya gong korde ya jimato. Tongma kani go tsugudu, tama kani juk zoro de tingi nedan di ke cheshu de tingi chaga wasa res tarwa. Nisa ngenjong kesa di dirta. Ta di tongma kewa di rama mebi kewa jura. Di ka tuba na taman cheya dia rama mebi toni cheya dia ka tuba res. Tingi chi ka tuba na tingi rama da demba chi chong tuba na har nedan samalo rama demba le yungu res. Ta ngenjong sonya zo dire das ro.
The meaning of definite emergence, this consciousness that is the consciousness called definite emergence, is where one has developed a determination to be free from our current situation of suffering. And we need to be clear on what is meant in this context by suffering, because we do often give rise to the wish to emerge from certain suffering situations. If we have a migraine, we want to emerge from that suffering. If we are in poverty, we want to emerge from the suffering of poverty. But this is not at all the kind of suffering that is being referred to here. Specifically, the suffering that is being referred to in the context of the mind of definite emergence is our lack of freedom over when we will die and when and how we'll be reborn. We have no free will over that. We cannot determine this is the when and how my life will end and the next one will start, etc. We have no freedom over that. We have no, or to express it differently, we have no control over that. It is actually under the control of something else. It's under the control of our contaminated karma and afflictions. Recognizing that we have no control over our death and rebirth, but it's rather under the control of our contaminated karma and afflictions. And seeing that as long as we remain in this situation, this process of continuing to circle in cyclic existence will continue. And we'll continue to take rebirth in suffering realm after suffering realm, giving rise to a determination. The mind of definite emergence is this. It's where one recognizes that one is bound in the suffering realm because of a lack of freedom over our birth and death, and these are rather under the control of our contaminated karma and afflictions. The mind of definite emergence is the mind that is determined to emerge from these suffering realms, to emerge into a state of freedom. So this then is the mind of definite emergence. It is definite about wanting to emerge from this situation where we have no freedom, and rather to attain a state where we are liberated and thereby are free. That's all.
Tadiri, the Tiva Dindi says, and also the Tiva Chigabati, when a Kevala Ram Mevati, Dungaina, Kevala Ram Mevadi, Katugreves, Kevala Ram Sotugreves. The Tiva was struck. The Kevala Ram Sotu the Matu, Keshi, you can't let in Kigdos. Good thing on the subject Yatu Lumen said, Tire Dasra. Nanzo Keshi Gutso Kareslam, Keshi Gutso Kandashang. Nanzu Subudi Nyelendi Pamani Kotal Dene Chonyore, in by the Tetsamgi, Nanzu Subudi Chanzan Trup to Gores, Tumar Genshima Guyorasra, Genshima Guyarata, Genshima Kareslam, Genshima Nanzu Migtoya Yore, Migtoya Meva Yunguyores. That make it toy maybe nanolaya, that Numungi, leda Numungi, Gencheni, so we candy, leda Numungi Gencheni, and in Anzugi, that lute 2 euros, killed 2 euros. This one, that Tindigi leda Numuni de, and it Tanganzu Sojiga 2 remares. Tirda. The D Sanji Sena 2 res. Teletabshi yores. That did it. Di tabshi this one, the Ganji Sanji Churna, tabshi so chisoyadi, Kiava Geshe Gu, Tandang on the Geshe Gu, leather pneumonia, and it sevig, and it tapped. Danguras. That di tapped so lane tarmatar is. Sanji can't tap the Chevy, tap the so soon Yamsland, Yamlech, and Lane Tarvana, Gasha Yatama, Mahon Big, Kiavalaya. And Ram Yobachi, so to years.
When hearing this, the question will arise. So I understand that I have no freedom or I have no control over my death or my rebirth. It's not something that I can just will in a particular direction. And that because I have no control over this, I continue to take rebirths in places or realms in which suffering is experienced. So I understand this. So the question then that arises, can this be brought to an end? This position we find ourselves in of being without control or freedom, can this be brought to an end? So the Buddha says very clearly that it can be. He says one needs to recognize the causes that keep us bound in the state that lacks freedom, the state where we have no control, and bring those to an end. Cease those causes. This way one gains freedom. So what are the causes that keep us bound in these suffering states? Well, there are those that are that we can observe and those that we cannot see for ourselves. So those that we can observe, so for example, for our human body, we know that our parents had to sleep together, and from the fertilized egg, then we were born. So that's the cause that can be easily known, that can be seen or observed. But then there's the unseen cause. That's the contaminated karma and afflictions. So the way to bring things to an end is to take care of being under the control of this contaminated karma and afflictions that determines where we will be born, rather than us having any free will over that. And the method is exactly what is presented by the Buddha. that the techniques presented by the Buddha, we need to cultivate. And a key further point here is we ourselves need to cultivate the trainings of the Buddha within ourselves. We have to train ourselves, train our minds in the teachings of the Buddha. It cannot be done for us. We need to do it ourselves. But when one does so successfully to the point of completion, we attain the state of freedom or control over our process of birth and death. Unlike our current situation, where we have no freedom or control over it. That's all.
Tadilita, Indigi, and Lenyungi Wangi, Kewatigi, Gukawandi, Lenyungi Wangi, Kewadi, Rashing Gado Rasra. On the Kewi, and in Mobo Kandajin by Naya, Zishi method, Kandajin by Naya, Kujiji, Gudi Kawaina, Kewa Mevadi, Nanzungonsum Tongorata, get the Chigbares, and Nanzu, any Kamsumgi. Any keval samolo chigba chagorasra. Any come sum kandajili kevana yang andu penata, andu zambalin delia ketsavichela, kangaj matota, metazerasra, kangambashi, kadu inara, and can benjo chimbo imbaina, can kanga chigiore, can benjo mena kanga chigiore, never ina kanga chigore, never mena kanga chigore. Ah. Sasan yona kanga chigre, sasan mena kanga chig, kanji kangare dasra. Ta di zambalin ding anzu thong de ta di mahim big kam sum kandachli kewa ina ya. Ani kanga the nyarchi. Inza dindi ki kewa thile ya, dindi ki kewa thile ya. Ani thorya, dindi ki kewa le mugu ya. Ani dumba ki ya thile dasra.
We, has been mentioned, take rebirth and we die due to our contaminated karma and afflictions. And everything that comes about independence on causes will naturally cease, because everything that comes about independence on causes, such as our body, is impermanent, and thereby in its very nature, it ceases. And it ceases when the strength of the causes fades. So, for example, if we take a flower, we know a flower has come about in dependence on causes and conditions, right? That flower is not everlasting. It wilts and dies. And so too, with everything that arises from causes, being impermanent, it will fade. And its fading or its death or its going out of existence is this process of change of the cause that has been ripened, then losing its strength and dissipating. Just like the flower, ourselves too. So therefore, death will follow. But after death, so too will rebirth. And where, what circumstances we'll be reborn, it's not something we can will. It's not something we can choose. It just happens. And it happens not causelessly, but due to our karma and afflictions. And the reality is, wherever we are born, it will be somewhere in these three realms, or to express it differently, because that's a literal Tibetan, in the three realms or in samsara. Wherever we are born, we will experience problems, suffering, difficulties. So the realm we can directly perceive is that of humans. And we know wherever someone is born, whatever their life circumstances are, no one is free of problems, suffering, or difficulties. Whether someone is wealthy or not burdened by the problems of wealth and is poor, both suffer. Whether someone is ill or someone is not burdened by the suffering of illness and is healthy, both suffer. whether someone has a partner or someone is not burdened by the problems of a partner, both suffer. So from this we know to be the case. And from this we can recognize throughout our human world, everyone experiences problems and suffering and difficulties. And it is the same throughout all the realms of samsara, not just the seen, but the unseen too. And definite emergence is this determination to emerge from this process of continually circling in cyclic existence, being certain or definite about emerging from this suffering situation. That's okay.
Ni tibar chik thas ngi ma nganzo dewa de shuya mar jimbara der shuya mar dara nganzo chitang gi ta penjo yo ba na ani ta kibu ye bi gi ta rewa chigi yo ra ki ta god go ra penjo go do ta go da ra mena nganzo ngi ma keje chong da nganzo zinda ji la ra ngi yaga gyurida ya yaga mi di semgum kiba yores ngillar nginzirajilara Australia gi mile yaga mi gi semgum kiba yores ngillarwa konzo kawa yores yo marsa yaga mi dugo yorlasra nganzo check chel takje chen Google gyuni check cheondi yacha chonga semgum majinge yaga le Australia yacha chonga mounts yacha go by na
Di komaso. 이 양켜성이 어떻게 돼?
야가다 오스트레일리아니 셈컴 셈바 마깅에
이거서.
야차 두르와 야차 마뇽 때로와 오스트레일리아 야가니 야차 쫑아 오스트레일리아 망 구글 기는 다시시 그런서
이 갸쳐기 콜라 데 네탄다 잡봉이 하고서 최탕체나 갸가미 오스트레일리아 미 레 키와데 갸가와 오스트레일리아 미 레 키와데 키포 망와데
야차 두르나 야차 코니 셰바나 야차 그 셰바나
예 디고서
그나 오스트레일리아 나오노야 셈바 마깅에 미 망부여와 미주 야가 나와 딜레 망 요레스
네네네
야차 돈이 셰바나 야가 용어도
데니고서 데니서버고서 It's a very common belief that if one were a bit wealthier or maybe a lot wealthier, one would be happy. And this belief drives people in many activities. And in general, if we can say Australia is a wealthier country, or Australians are wealthier than Indians. And so therefore one should say Australians are happier than Indians because of this view that if we have more wealth, we will be happier. But the reality is, when we think take a percentage of population, in Australia, I would say it's a far greater percentage of population that experiences mental difficulties, depression, and so forth. It's far more of a pronounced problem in Australia, despite Australians being much wealthier than Indians on average. That's all. Let's help it up.
세우샤이 레오예스
It's help it.
레야 야 딘자 간스는 간수직 하장기 벤 지වත් 사자와이나 라 레가 돌 지වත් 사자와 또벤 뒤서 딱딱딱 로고라 진짜 야구도 왔다 봐 이나야 하장기 벤 침다 뜻서 담 자와이나 아니 미 부스토브 책을 얻다라 야 하장기 왜 자와이나 아니 야급디 야기 줘야라 내 다준 누구다 빼나 야가도나 야기 저거 누구요 말았다 그러 진이 가서 뒤즈 된다 주주 쭉지랑 가서 종기라는 이제 중이스마는 정고 말아. 라 대갈카고도 이나야. 네, 그 샘컴 정도 시에바나. 샤와이나로. 아니 샘부기부터
To maybe give an illustration. In your culture, being punctual is seen as important and is seen as respectful, and being not being punctual is really seen as a poor reflection on you, and you making a statement about others. So punctuality is greatly valued. People arrive at least on time for work, maybe earlier, but at least on time. And similarly, no one's going to leave work early. They'll leave at the right time or maybe a bit later. But this is because timekeeping is valued, is seen as a good quality. India, this really this value has yet to be adopted there. If someone says, "I'll meet you at 12 o'clock," well, you'll be lucky if they've turned up by 2. So timekeeping really is not valued in the same way. But then when we take the impact or the the general happiness of individuals in terms of what follows from this discipline of needing to of being confined within the parameters of timekeeping, or disregarding that almost entirely, you can see though that people who aren't so bound by such parameters, they're much more relaxed. And both parties, the one who's kept waiting and the one who arrives late, much more accepting, much more relaxed about the situation. But where the timekeeping is seen as this important quality, it tends to make the mind narrower. And therefore, because the mind is narrow and tight, it's more easily enraged. So this is an illustration of whilst being very punctual has benefits for productivity in the nation, meetings start on time, deliveries come on time, and this certainly helps productivity, but it doesn't help with mental happiness. Lasso. So
디지털 주 다서디 샘컴 데레샤스 샘. 주 다서디 산지 출루톤이 시험되다 샘도 조샤요스로 샘디야 차와나 참마야고 차줘야다 샘디야고지 마샤와나 참은 더줘야지 그래도 소수 가위로지 깨봐야나 아니 술라 가위로지 깨봐나 미디냠 창물레 거라더라 마가고 돌려온디 더줘요라 가지 샘 간지 따르제 제거야 로 손교 제야디 샘디 서비스 만주다 kuyu sonjo chigore kuyu sonjo tolaya chukba gyagore a ani pet en kondro sagore ani mele gyonju chigore imbaina tachi shoji kuyu sonjo chetuya kagore pen chashabana kuyu sada dochu soba degidirada a tepen nganzu subudi saddo with the chashir dorojira nganzu subudi 아니 간주 수부디 간주 쇼지 그 손집 제 도움을 다서라 아주 생미세 강자를 그 손집 집에는 그 쇼드야 되지 그 참만디고 차드야 인자 손집 제 맞투야지 쇼지 손집 제 탐시 제와나 아니 소소 뒤서 졸라다 깔레 가로서지 손집 제 투야지 손집 제와 있나야 gensen yobadi sem di chagwanza sem sonjib chegwa yan sosu sem mishin ka karsang gyananda kari lagu yananda hil zo mate sosu sem na kari chagidu sosu sem di kandajidu hi tolaya samudan jebachin sonjib chegwanda yakshu di insaresra
on the illustration just given, you see the approach that Buddhism takes. Buddhism focus perhaps entirely is on the mind. It's not particularly concerned about productivity. It is, though, concerned about the state of the mind. And this is because without a deep and abiding yearning for happiness, the actual source of happiness lies within. And if we, to the extent we take care of our mind, everything else will be okay. If our mind, though, is out of control, if our mind is in a bad state, everything else is awful. And if you are someone who's kind-hearted, who's gentle, wherever you go, your mind is peaceful and calm. Those who are around you are influenced by your calmness and your gentleness. And if they all wound up, they will slowly calm in your presence. Whereas on the other hand, if your mind is out of control, you're in a bad mood, everything is just awful, when you're with others, you'll express that. And if they're in a similar way, you both will end up worse. Or if they're in a good mood, you may well destroy it. So this goes to emphasize the importance of the mind. Because all conflict within families, between communities, or between nations comes down to faulty ways of thinking. In fact, even the destruction of our environment comes down to faulty ways of thinking. We can imagine a society or a world where people have wholesome or dominated by wholesome ways of thinking. In such societies, there could not be conflict. The environment would not be destroyed. Taking care of the mind is indispensable. So we know we need to look after our body. How well we look after our body, this may vary, but we know we need to take care of our body. If we don't, then it will quickly degenerate. So we know we need to look after our body. But from the point of view of society, it's not so much guidance. And what there is of limited value in terms of taking care of our own mind. So from this, I want to encourage you to focus on your mental state or taking care of your mind, as well as to be aware that it's your own mind that is your responsibility, not that of others. Your own mind. Taking care of your own mind will mean you'll have a positive influence on others, but it's your own mind that we have responsibility for. So this really is an important point. Lasso.
시작입니다.
So we finish there?
롬보지 이줄지 예와 냠바 네바야 오디 곤드 베로
So if people have bought lunch, please come and join Geshe Tsultrim out behind for lunch. Come and join anyway. We seem to be able to feed everybody. So there's any problem. So maybe some people might take the opportunity, Geshe last afternoon here, to have some conversation with Geshe if you're having